Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I am your host, as always, Chad Porto. Joining me is the glorious one himself, Marcus Green. Marcus, how the hell are you?
Good man, back on another Tuesday to talk more wrestling.
We're talking wrestling. We're talking more wrestling. How was your weekend before we get into that?
Oh, pretty good. I think I just came down with a head cold the other day, so hand on the left side is stalled, but hopefully that'll be over soon. But other than that, can't complain too much.
Did the weather shift down there in Louisiana?
Not too much. It's still, like camel toe hot down here. But,
That's right.
man, it's just one of them seasonal things. So maybe laying down with the kind of air blowing on me, that might have did it.
Mm. That's the only way I can go to sleep. So
Yeah.
that would suck for me. Now that being said, uh, we had our last 80-degree day, I think, for the year. So I'm a little sad. Pool's being closed down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forget because y'all really have to prepare early because y'all know for a fact y'all getting snow.
Mm-hmm. We really we really are. And it's probably going to come in increments. We'll get some probably at the end of October, maybe middle of October, and then more in November, and then more in December. So it'll certainly be a interesting affair this year. We'll see how much snow we get and how consistently we get it, because it hasn't been that consistent over the last few years. Gee, I wonder why. Speaking of snow, though, let's talk about the NWA, whose snowy antics last October cost them a television deal. Now, Billy Corgan argues otherwise, but, well, I would have to hazard a guess that he's not exactly the most trustworthy source. Long ago, in the distant years of 2023, there was rumors that the NWA was negotiating between two channels to get power on one of their channels. Then they did their Saw Wayne events. Sam Hain, Saw Wayne, however you want to pronounce it. And during the event, James Mitchell took a bump of what we expected to be some fake powder. Well, it wasn't. So we're told. And we were then later told that the folks at the CW weren't too keen on that, and it may have cost them their TV deal. Now they're like, no, we still have a deal, it's happening. They end up on the CW website, formerly the CW Seed, and then like a week later it's announced, or like maybe a few months later, it's announced that the WB will be bringing NXT to the CW. And unlike the NWA, the CW will be putting NXT on television, live at 8 or 9 o'clock, starting, I think, this week or next week. I think it's next week. And we're like, okay, they're doing a lot with Live Golf. They have NASCAR's minor league circuit. They have, I don't know if CW owns Ion now or works with Ion, but they're splitting WNBA rights, I think, between the two, or at the very least, they're in cahoots with Ion, because like if you go to like the CW stuff, you see like access to Ion channels as well. So I don't know if it's a partnership or what have you. But like CW is trying to get into live sports, because live sports is what's keeping television not just alive but profitable. If I'm a television executive, WWE's NXT makes a hell of a lot more sense than NWA Power, especially when you realize that the WWE's profit margin for commercials will be a lot higher. With NWA, you're at significantly less. Not only that, you have to deal with the fact that you have Billy Corgan as your owner. So I get why. I get why the WWE's winning out on this one. But the news broke, I think, yesterday or today, that not only is the NWA stuck on the CW app or website, They won't be for much longer. And no, that's not a good thing because they're going to lose their spot entirely when the WWE comes aboard. So now the NWA's only big outlet is gone. And it wasn't even that big of an outlet to begin with. You had to search for this content for a while on their website. Like it was, you had to go through the sports section of the website, and you had to like scroll through that to find it. Once in a while, it'd be on the central main hub of the website, but like usually you had to go find it. And it's not a good sign that that's how you have to go about finding this product. I would say that the only equivalency I can give you, and it would still be worse, would be having to find TNA on Pursuit, if you remember that channel. That was a dark day for us TNA fans. This is not good. There's already been rumors that the talent's not being paid as well as they should be. You know, we talked about the rumors about them siphoning gas out of fans' cars at events. It's not a good sign. They are bringing the Colognes in, Primo and Epico. They're going to be wrestling for NWA here in a little bit. But on the brass tack, like through it all, it doesn't seem like they're in a good place, especially with them trying to do partnerships with all these territories, as they call them. Not having a television deal in place isn't going to make a lot of people want to work with them. And clearly they weren't making enough money on YouTube alone, which is, you know, not shocking. YouTube doesn't pay wrestling outlets a lot of money. I would hazard a guess that what the WWE makes on YouTube revenue sharing alone, or profit sharing, whatever they call it, probably wouldn't sustain the NWA. So if that's the case, and it's a guesstimation, right? They might make $1 million off of YouTube a year. I doubt that would be enough for Billy Corgan in the NWA. So like clearly there's probably a need for much more than what YouTube could provide, even out what the NWA is putting out there. That said, all hope is not lost. A lot of television outlets want to stay alive, and live wrestling, current wrestling, will do that for you. There's a chance they could find another home, a better one at that. But with Corgan running the helm and now Tom Latimer as champion, I don't know. They do have some talent. They really do. You know, they got Colby Carino. What's his name? Kerry Morton. I think Mims is still there. I could be wrong about that. The women's division has talent, just not a lot of personalities. Like there are positives about the NWA's roster, but can they turn those positives into draws? So far, they haven't. Marcus, I don't know when the last time you watched the NWA was.
Intentionally, without needing doing for this show. That probably one of they tag tournaments. But for the purposes of this show, and I think off something you may have talked about or recommended, just offshoot one week I went when it felt like they were doing the show out of it felt like a room.
Yeah.
It felt like a room, and it didn't like they were doing it, and when they had to Into the Fire, and they were kind of hot on YouTube at the time, way back in the day. It almost feels like another time and place at this point.
Pre AEW.
Yeah, pre AEW, they were doing that kind of in like a little small ballroom setting. It felt like, but it had such an energy about it that this felt like another small situation, but it felt dead.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of a turn off both aesthetically and in terms of what the matches they was putting on. So it's I feel like it's probably been about a couple of years since I watched it directly. Yeah.
I do know that they're going to be doing a new studio. I think they're going to be out in Florida for the new studio stuff. And you're right, like the last set of tapings that I saw, it was like 20 fans, and I'm not being facetious. Maybe 20 to 30 fans around the ring, and there wasn't like a deep audience, and I feel like Billy Corgan is going to go bankrupt with this company because he refuses to do the one thing they need to do, evolve. He keeps trying to, put out this Southern wrestling territory nonsense that's just not working. When what could be working is becoming an American strong style promotion. Getting guys in there who throw hard, throw heavy, and throw often, and give people a different perspective because you watch, like, say, New Japan Strong, and New Japan's kind of gotten away from the strong style of it all, which isn't a bad thing. It's a very hard style to wrestle, but like if you can Americanize it a little bit, add a little bit of sports entertainment flair with the strong style wrestling, I think you could have something. I don't know if they have the roster to pull it off, but I gotta say, like, there's gotta be guys who are willing to work for them that aren't Tom Latimer. Your company starts and ends with your champion, and EC3, he was not what he was 7 years ago when he left TNA. His stints in WWE, his attempts to create your narrative, and then just the slog of a match he had with Tyrus. All that really hurt his name value and credibility. But he's done good work. He's done good work on OVW. He's doing good work with the NWA. But changing it to Tom Latimer for what? The dude's as cold as a dead fish in the Arctic. Like, the dude's got no heat, no pop, no sizzle. No one's gonna go, hey, you know who I want to see wrestle? Tom Latimer. I've never heard anyone say that. I've heard a lot of outlandish things in my life. I've heard people say, I like pineapple on pizza. I've heard people say that they didn't like the Dread movie from 2014. I've even heard people say Mike Awesome wasn't so awesome. I've never heard anyone say, hey, I really want to see that match. It has Tom Latimer in it. Never heard it. Never. Never. We elected an orange beach ball in 2016. Still more believable than someone saying Tom Latimer's my favorite wrestler. Dude's a charisma vacuum.
Okay, quick question. So who had more reds? And who has more reds? Tom Lattimore or Brown?
It's like asking, do you want me to cut off your left big toe or your right big toe? Neither.
She says like you're fucked either way.
Like, that would be neither. Him being involved in TNA is one of the darkest periods of my life. Let's be honest.
And
And it,
initially got the torch pass from Bob Biss. Like,
yeah, granted, Abyss gave that torch to a lot of people. That torch has syphilis. It's been around. It's been around.
yeah.
I don't get why Billy Corgan keeps hiring guys that, suck. I would just put the belt on Colby Corino or Morton, Kerry Morton, and like, actually build up and show off your talent. They do have some guys on this roster that is worth keeping an eye on. Like, it's not some type of gimmick that I'm making up. I really do like some of these guys on the roster. Like, here's the headliners. You got Kerry Morton, not the headliners, but still. Let's see. Brian Idle's not too bad. Odinson's got the look. Who else we got? Daisy Kill. He's fantastic. Talos looks pretty good. Let's see. Silas Mason. Just, like, actually, like, push these guys. Just push them.
You booking it. What would you have done when they had the Pope? So like y'all had the Pope.
You did have the Pope. I don't know where he's at now. Highlighting his love affair for Chris Benoit, I'm sure.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Still love Pope, but he and I are not gonna agree on that one. I don't know if I put the belt on Pope because I don't remember who was champion during Pope's time. If it was Aldis, no. Aldis was the obvious choice. But I'd rather have Pope as champ than Tyrus. Tyrus only got the belt because he was on Fox News. So, like, that's not great. I just don't get it. I don't get why they're doing this. I don't get why they're trying to put people like fucking Thom Latimer in the main event. I don't get it. I'll never understand it. They do have some talent though. Like with some time, they might be able to find their way out of this hole they're in. But they need to get on television and they need to get it fast.
So for the primary time, you think they're just going back to YouTube until they can regroup? Because when we talked about initially when the Sam Hain stuff happened, obviously, and we mentioned this on the show, even if it was the contrary, it behooved him as the face of the company to come out and disparage the rumors that they was out of a TV deal because of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So of course he was going to come and be like, "That's not the only thing we have in the bag. We cooking something up," and then obviously I don't think we necessarily heard anything since. But I mean, that's kind of his job to dispel those rumors as to not cause panic. But it's kind of hard to do that now when you have rumors of people siphoning fan gas.
Mm-hmm.
So it's on top of this happening. So it's like, I don't, you can say Smokey the Bear's not around, but it looked like the end of Bambi when the forest caught fire right now.
That's a solid analogy.
Yeah.
You can clearly see that there's smoke and fire. Well, you can clearly see there's smoke somewhere, so the fire's got to be coming, you know. I hope everything ends up okay. I'm not hey, you know what'd be great? If this company out of business. I'm not that guy.
Same.
But the NWA needs to figure their shit out. The good news is there's a lot of talent out there these days. And it's not the NWA only that needs to find out what they're going to look like in the future. They definitely need to do the same thing with MLW. MLW needs to find a permanent home. Needs to find a home that's going to really invest in them. And my thought was, if they could do something between the two brands and land a 2-hour back-to-back situation where you get like Power and then Fusion MLW show back-to-back, I think that'd be dope. Maybe you shoot them in the same studio. Maybe you do it in front of the same crowds. A true, beneficial, bona fide working relationship. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but I feel like that's the only way those two companies can find their step forward is with a partnership, if not a merger. Because MLW has the same. MLW has a different issue. I think the NWA has genuine talent. Daisy Kill, Kobe Carino, Kerry Morton, those dudes are going to be huge. Maybe not in the NWA, but they'll be huge. The folks at MLW have some headliners. Kojima, not too shabby. Kenta, Mystico. They've had a few sellouts with those three at the top of the card. Outside of them, though, they have Davey Boy Smith Jr., Paul London, not Knox, but Davey Boy Smith. Granted, he's been wrestling since like 2003. He is 38, I think. Only 38. He's 39. He's just turned 39. So Davey Boy Smith Jr. is only 39 years old. He's been wrestling since 2002.
Yeah, he's just been wrestling since forever. Like, yeah, he's
Sorry,
about 40 in wrestling years.
he's been wrestling since 2000. That's not a joke. His debut year was listed as 2000. So he's been around. He's been around a while. And they got some headliners. Paul London, him, Kenta, Mystico, Kojima. I don't know if I would consider Riddle a headliner. They got Tom Lawler. They do have some names, but they don't have the youth. The youngest guy on the roster that I think has upside is Akira. And I don't know if Akira alone gives them a lot of forward momentum. Because 4 years ago, they had, or maybe 5 years ago, they had Richard Holiday. They had Swerve. They had MJF. They had Alexander Hammerstone. They had Teddy Hart before he Teddy Harted. They have Davey Boy Smith Jr. They had a lot of young guys or younger guys that looked like, upside. I think Swerve was their first world champion after the revival. They had Loki for a hot minute. And now it's like, if you're looking for the future, where is it? Here's the, this is the 8 men that they had in, what was it, 2016? 2018. MVP, Tom Lawler. Matt Riddle, Jeff Cobb. Shane Strickland, Brody King. Jimmy Havoc, MJF. Clearly, they can find talent. Clearly, they're good at developing talent. Jacob Fatu. Alexander Hammerstone. So, they need to put these two companies together somehow. Otherwise, I don't see how either group succeeds. Especially if you're MLW and relying on Alexander Netza, I'm sorry, if you're relying on Matt Riddle. And if you're the NWA and you're relying on Tom Riddle. Not Tom Riddle. Jesus Christ, that's his Harry Potter character. Tom Latimer. If Tom Latimer and Matt Riddle are your two stars, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. Oh, Alex Kane's still in MLW. He's good. I like Alex Kane. So, we'll find out.
Speaking of Riddle, real quick though, who are a few names that would be considered controversial that, on the traditional spectrum with everything that how the wrestling landscape is now, might not be the top tier decision to do, but would actually get some eyes on them in terms of talent wise? Is it somebody of controversial names they could actually bring in and maybe potentially move the needle? Is it somebody like a Tessa or an Elgin or something like that?
For which group? Either group? Both groups?
NWA.
NWA? Tessa,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think Tessa's right. Because, Tom Latimer's not exactly a wholesome dude. EC3, not exactly a wholesome dude. They've worked with Austin Aries in the past. So, yeah, Tessa. I think Austin Aries. I don't know if he's controversial. I think if they can go out and get someone like Jake Hager, that could be interesting.
Maybe a name like Patrick Clark.
Maybe not.
Sure.
When you start dealing with Tessa and Austin Aries, and Elgin even, like Elgin's big thing is that he allegedly covered up someone's indiscretions. Tessa allegedly racist. Austin Aries allegedly a dick, although that's not so allegedly. Loki allegedly a dick. With Patrick Clark, you're looking at allegedly into underage.
Yeah.
Like that one's like, okay, wrestling caters to a young audience a lot. You can't have someone like that around. Here's a name, and he kind of popped up for MLW. I don't know how much you could do with him at his age, but like Mark Henry, he's controversial, but I wouldn't have any issue putting Mark Henry out there in front of a crowd. Like I know nothing's gonna happen with him, unlike Patrick Clark. What about you? Who do you want to see in either group that maybe has lost a little bit of luster?
Yeah, I was thinking about somebody. I mean, the first name that came to mind but brought up was Tessa. In terms of dudes, I'm trying to see who's faded off the. Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I don't really think gender would do nothing. Um,
Jinder could be cool.
yeah, that's weird, man. Not necessarily controversial, thankfully, but yeah, like you said, gender could be cool. What's Slater doing?
Nothing. I don't even know if he's wrestling right now.
Yeah.
He could be interesting. He's got that southern vibe. He's still a very good worker for his age. I think he's 40, 41. He's charismatic and energetic. He could definitely add something. That's for sure.
Is ACH still performing?
maybe. So Heath is still wrestling. He's just not wrestling for anyone big. I want to say ACH is still wrestling. I think he just came back. Yeah, he just came back this year for the first time in almost 2 years. He returned in July. He only had, according to Cage Match, and they cover a lot of indies. They don't cover all indies. According to Cage Match, he's wrestled once this year.
Now there are three names of color. With the Trump of it all, the Trump monotone of it all, that are out there that are big name. I don't necessarily know if they view NWA as on their caliber because of where they came from, but you do have three of the I was finna call them the Beatdown Clan, the
Yeah,
MVP Lashley and Benjamin. Yeah,
yeah. I forgot their stable name too because they had to change it.
yeah.
Wherever they go, that's a get. TNA, MLW, Ring of Honor, AEW, WWE, New Japan.
Hmm.
That trio is perfect wherever you go. Lashley may be pushing 50, but he's in phenomenal shape. I'm sure it's the Flintstone vitamins that he injects into his ass every day.
Yeah, but that would do shots.
The Yabba Dabba Dooids.
Yeah. Yeah, Benjamin stays in great shape, and what he's got to be pushing 50.
I mean, they're all pushing
Um,
50 or 50.
yeah,
Because
so
like
it's
MVP's 50 at least. Benjamin's 49. I got to say MVP is 50. He'll turn 51 this year. And he's already said he's not done.
yeah.
Bobby's 48. Booby. Booby
Would you
Lash.
put them with a Henry if they came in?
Yes. Absolutely. I wouldn't even hesitate. Listen, I don't want to hang out with Mark Henry. I feel like he and I would argue a lot. I feel like Mark Henry can get some eyes on you, kind of the same way JBL is getting eyes on TNA and GCW. I wouldn't want to hang out with JBL. I feel like we would argue a lot, incessantly, until the point one of us had to tear the other one's ears out. But I'm fine with using him if he gets eyes on my product. Same here with Mark
Hmm.
Henry. So, there are options out there. I think if you're NWA, you need to go hard into the Bobby Lashley, Mark Henry, MVP, and Shelton Benjamin of it all. Maybe even an ACH. Bring them in. Heath Slater, I think that'd be a nice six set of guys, or five set of guys that you can bring in and really do something with, especially if you can keep guys like EC3 and Carino and Kerry Morton and Mims and Daisy Kills. You can really build your men's division around them. As long as you keep Odinson, I think you have a shot at your tag team division, regardless of who you pair him up with. But you got to do more to bring in the name value. That's why I'm thinking like an NWA MLW merger might be the best way forward for both groups. But what do I know?
Yeah, 'cause, yeah, I think AEW's kind of hit their quota. Um, and even everybody that's coming there that's immediately on screen not going to necessarily land. So, you know, gotta have other places to work, but a merger might not necessarily be the worst thing. I don't know. I would hope that Corgan would mesh with the NLW brass. I also think you'd probably be more familiar with who that is than I would, but I would hope that there'd be a good working relationship. Just like you said, Corgan's just so fixated on this, you know, um, old school vibe that's not really getting its point across, particularly right now. It's you're gonna probably have to lend some of that control over because MLW is the hotter brand.
Yeah, you would have to change your style and you'd have to do a lot of unique things that I don't know if Billy Corgan wants to do. But Billy Corgan's in the situation he is in because he doesn't want to do the things he needs to do. So I think when that's kind of the revelation that you have to accept, it might be time to change things up. Now he can change them up without merging with MLW. What he needs though is a guy like Jonathan Gresham. I love John Gresham in TNA, don't get me wrong, but John Gresham would be a fantastic NWA World Champion. The kind of guy that he needs at the forefront of his company. He is currently, and I will say this with love and respect, spinning his wheels in TNA. I have not been impressed with a lot of what Gresham has done since he signed with the company, which is a shame because he's one of those guys I really wanted in TNA, and they just have not used him correctly. But that being said, he's got a chance to truly shock the world. He will be wrestling Josh Alexander at the upcoming TNA Wrestling tapings. And I think this is an opportunity to really show the world what he can do. Marcus, how excited are you for this, which will essentially be a rematch to their prior match at Terminus? I think they've actually wrestled a few times, too.
Yeah, I want to say they ran a match in TNA.
I don't
But
think in
yeah, this
TNA,
is
but they've done it like on the Indies. I know that.
funnily enough. That speaks to what you're saying, spinning wheels. Like, how have they been in the company that long now? Well, how has he existed in the company for this long now, not touched with Alexander, which is why this match is kind of special. Not just for the technical ability, obviously, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of the spot we've been calling for him to be in consistently for feels like the last 2 or 3 years, 2 years for sure. And obviously he's adopted this kind of great Muda-esque octopus evolution, if you will. Um, and yeah, he just with him and Bailey, man, we have been consistently campaigning for them to be the guys that you kind of put in the forefront on a consistent level. They always deliver great technical um, bouts with everybody. Uh, and we've already had, ironically enough, uh, a married women's and world's champion at the same time with Parazzo and Macklin. Not cool that would be if it was Gresham and Jordan, and probably more justified in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, absolutely sick. But like you said, you got to make it believable and you got to build, which may be what Josh is doing with potentially looking to the horizon for other prospects down the line. Like he's kind of, the traditional terminology is what doing the honors. We saw what he just did for Hendry. So, if somebody like Gresham potentially has next in terms of one of the spots that Gresham used to have, not Gresham, Alexander would have, we might be seeing him get the victory. But again, much like we talked about with Hendry and Bailey, when these guys get these big wins, you have to capitalize on. So, very much looking forward to the match, but also like what happens after the fact, because that can't just be a nothing one-off.
No, it's got to build to something. With the uncertainty surrounding guys like Bailey and Alexander, now would be a great time to put the X Division title on Gresham. A title he's never held, a title that I think he would do phenomenal with. They really need to just go, you know what? We're going to ride with you. Because Gresham is one of those guys that can carry the ball. He's done it so often, so many times. I feel like if you finally give him an opportunity, he can give a company the type of credibility that it very rarely has. Guys like Kenny Omega and Gresham, Bryan Danielson, Davey Richards, that type of, even a younger Okada before he pulled back with AEW. And that's not a knock on AEW or Okada. Okada's old. He's like 36. Let me double check that. I think he might be older than that. Yeah, he's 36. He'll be 37 this year. Your body breaks down. You have to slow down. You have to change up your style. And Okada's doing that in AEW. Much respect. But if you have a guy like that who can go out there every night and, quite honestly, every night give you a banger, you know that the main event's always going to be worth seeing. It's one of the reasons why I've always been in favor of Moose headlining, even if I don't think Moose moves the needle, because Moose gives you bangers. I don't know if I've ever seen that, the quote unquote 5-star match that Moose could do. I've never seen Moose go less than a 3.5. Like he is a phenomenal big man worker. I would put him on the same level as Sid Vicious, and I think Sid Vicious as a big man is like right below, prime
Yeah,
S tier guys. Like we're talking like Vader and Bam Bam, and like Stan
yeah,
Hansen. I think Sid's right there, and I think Moose is right with him.
yeah. And that's saying a lot, and especially coming from you. But we have also a unique appreciation for Moose because we saw him where he had to work to get to a 3-star match.
Mm-hmm.
Like we watched him when all he kind of was music, a hand gesture, and a spear.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's fought more than that. Got his, probably in the best shape of his career. Obviously world champion material multiple times now. Um, and he's good enough on the mic to to warrant some good back and forth. And like you said, he goes out there and he gets bangers with everybody from Jake something to Bailey, everybody. Like he's become that workhorse guy. So um, yeah, they definitely they got a potential move the needle. Speaking of getting like it on Gresham, how would you do that? Because I would imagine just getting the belt back on Bailey, which they probably should have took it off him in the first place. Would you let Bailey go all the way to Destination X and then do the option C and then get it to Gresham? Or what would you do?
So I think one of the things I would have to know is what are we looking at contract wise? Who's expiring when? Who's willing to re-up? Because Joe Hendry signed through next year. Alexander signed through this year. Maybe even in a little bit into 2025. When is Bailey due up? Because that'll like answer a lot of questions. If Bailey has 2 years, let's say he's not due up until the end of 2026. And Joe Hendry's due up next year, and Alexander is due up this year. I would have Bailey cash in and win the world title and go from there. And I would have Gresham win the X Division title. Now, if I don't have to worry about resetting the main event scene, I would just have Gresham beat Bailey at Bound for Glory. That's kind of what I would do. And I don't know if I would go forward anymore with the Mudapus gimmick because I don't think he ever needed it. I think he's, to me, he's just like Davey Richards, Bryan Danielson. He's a guy who's so technically proficient, he doesn't need that over the top gimmick. I think you give him a belt, you give him a singular purpose with that belt, and you let him go to town. I think that's how you get him over. But until they do that, he's going to have his doubters, sadly enough. So that's how I would do it. I don't know if TNA would put the world title on him. I don't think you have to rule it out. I think he's far more capable to do those things in the main event scene than maybe some people want to give him credit for. But like I was saying the other day about the Mortis situation, the Mortis situation, or whatever we're calling black trees these days.
Yeah, Beast Mortos.
Beast Mortos. There are guys that fit better in promotions than other guys.
Yeah.
I think Mortos is doing exactly what he needs to do in AEW, and I'm proud of him. He's a very good hand. But AEW does not need, everyone to be a potential headliner. They have headliners. They have Sasha Banks holding the mid-card women's title, and it has more significance than the actual world's title that they have for women. Clearly, they got headliners, right? We know that. They got Okada. They got, Mercedes. They might get Becky. John Moxley's there. They're doing the Orange Cassidy. They're doing good work. You look at TNA. TNA needs a lot of guys to draw. They need names more than they need anything else. That's why I'm never against guys like JBL coming in, or the Cat coming in, or Santino coming in, or Vladimir Kozlov coming in. Because if they can pop a rating or pop an audience by bringing in these names, hopefully they stick around for the Mooses, the Alexanders, the Baileys, the Rascals, the Jordan Graces. The issue I have is taking the belts off of those people and putting them on these people. So, like, for instance, when Mickey James won the world title for the knockouts, it's like, bring Mickey in, yes. Bring Victoria in, bring Gail Kim in, bring Melina in, bring Jazz in. Jordan shouldn't be losing the belt to anyone who's not a full-time wrestler. Same thing with the men. So Mordos doesn't provide to TNA what they need. They have guys who can work as well as Mordos. They have guys who can work better than Mordos. They have guys who have better looks, who have better better mic skills than Mordos. Mordos doesn't give TNA what they need. AEW needs 3 times as many wrestlers because they have 3 times as many shows, or 2 times as many shows, 1.5 times as many shows. They have 3 shows to TNA's 1. That's what I'm trying to say. They have 5 hours of television a week without pay-per-views to TNA's 2 without pay-per-views. Now, yes, they have Explosion, but there's like 2 matches on there usually a week, if that. So AEW needs guys who have an interesting look, who can, draw on the mid-card and bring eyes in. That's the Beast Mordos. He works in AEW. He does not work in TNA because he can't give TNA what they need while he can give AEW what they need. Same thing with John Gresham. Right now, I don't think he's working in TNA. I do think he could work as a headliner in the NWA. He was a hell of a flag bearer for Ring of Honor when they were an independent group. I think he could be the same flag bearer for the NWA. There we go. As world champion, as their best wrestler, as a spokesperson, he is intelligent, crafty. He is technically sound. I wouldn't say he's a great talker, but he can hold his own. Being one of the 5 best wrestlers in the world and maybe one of the 25 best in-ring technicians of all time, maybe probably higher. You don't really need to be Randy Savage. You can be Bret Hart. He's as good as Bret Hart on the mic, if not better. You can put him in the NWA, get instant credibility, instant headline potential. You can put him with anyone, and it will be a good match. He can raise the value and quality of those around him. He can make Kerry Morton and Colby Carino look like $1 million. He can make Daisy Kills look like a genuine threat. He can make all these other guys who are lacking seem impressive. Marcus, point of interest and a slight diversion, but I think it'll make sense when we come back around. The Carolina Panthers have Bryce young quarterback. Everyone's uneven about him. I never thought he was going to be a big get, and he hasn't been. Everyone's like, well, the Panthers suck, so you can't really blame Bryce Young. I'm like, well, do the Panthers suck? Bryce Young's not been good. Do the Panthers suck because Bryce Young is bad, or is Bryce Young bad because the Panthers suck? We'll find out. We found out on Sunday because Andy Dalton came in, threw 3 touchdowns, and looked like $1 million on a team that everyone was writing off. Same thing happened in the Houston. They're like, well, C.J. Stroud's going to a bad team. So all of a sudden, C.J. Stroud shows up with the Texans, and the Texans start playing ungodly. Clearly, they weren't a bad team. They just needed that missing piece. I feel like pro wrestling is a lot more like pro sports than people want to give credit to, and I feel like the NWA can have an entirely different look, vibe, and mentality if they bring in some like John Gresham, and he gets them going. All of a sudden, they go from being the Southern wannabe throwback from the 80s that's struggling to the new version of Ring of Honor, minus the overarching oversight that is Tony Khan.
Yeah.
So I think Gresham could do great there, but I also think he could do great in TNA.
Yeah, same. I mean, ironically enough, as great as like you can call it a Mudapus situation is, that also felt like it came out of necessity because that was the first time he was spinning his wheels. It felt like, and they just kept running these endless amount of matches between him and Bailey, which says a lot about the lackadaisicalness in the book, and that we were tired of seeing the 2 of them clash, almost. So, yeah, they really need to switch that direction over him and to go to your football reference. Didn't the same thing just happen? Because I'm a fan of the Bears. Didn't that just happen with the quarterback situation with them? They got rid of the rookie.
Yeah, so kind of the inverse of that, although I don't think it's as impressive. The Bears were struggling with Justin Fields. They traded him to the Steelers, and they drafted Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams looks like ass. Justin Fields now with the Steelers, they're 3-0. Now, Justin Fields also isn't exactly putting up huge numbers. He's only thrown for 2 touchdowns, rushed for 1. 3 touchdowns in 3 games isn't exactly a good thing. But he's looking a lot better with the Steelers. He's being managed better by Mike Tomlin, and the Bears are in free fall, despite the fact that they were supposed to get the quote unquote upgrade that is Caleb Williams. So yes, to answer your question, roundabout and longly, yes. So with that being said, we have some other big names that are kind of doing whatever, doing their thing, and that's Ray Phoenix and Pentagon Jr. They are currently with AEW. I think Pentagon's a free agent. Phoenix is not. So we last heard. Like who the hell knows at this point? Then we have rumors circling about. Right, we have rumors circling about that maybe, just maybe, they're WWE bound. Right, very possible. Could absolutely happen. But we also heard that they aren't WWE bound. The reports that they've signed are overblown. And now people are wondering if they're going to sign with AEW, or I should say re-sign with AEW. Here's the thing that I'll say to AEW, to TNA, and to WWE. None of you have used Pentagon right, and you break my fucking hearts. Lucha Underground made this man a star, and the three of you collectively pooched it. Now, that said, Pentagon looked a lot better in Impact than he did in AEW, and he's going to look a hell of a lot better in AEW than he does in WWE as a member of the LWO, as the 16th incarnation of Rey Mysterio. But I do wonder what you think about what should happen with this duo, because admittedly, whether they get used incorrectly in WB, whether they go back to WWE or AEW to try to regain some composure, regain some of their identity, or whether they say run the Indies for a while or go back down to Mexico and work with CMLL, because why would you work for AAA at this point? I want to know where you think they would thrive best in.
I feel like they either need to take the indie route or do TNA. At least when TNA, these, like you said, nobody ever really matched the potential that they got reached in Lucha Underground. Lucha Underground was such a special thing at a special time. Um, it's almost hard to compare. At least TNA saw him as a draw, saw him as a world champion, and made him so. And then they ran him in tag. Like if you go to TNA, you can split them. I have them tag. Like, have we ever seen the Lucha Bros versus the Hardys?
Not that I'm aware of.
That'll be sick. You can send Ray to the X and then Penta to the World. He's a former world champion, so you could do a former world champion, King of the Mountain, or something to that degree. Um, or a former world champion, Ghana, however they want to run that. Really, they go back to AEW to kind of just be more the same old hat type stuff. Because I felt like they're essentially doing with Mortos, same thing they was doing with Penta, except Penta's just a more known person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think we both talked about we prefer if they just go to somebody else with those tag titles, like Top Flight with the tag titles. So I can't even imagine in WWE because, like you said, like, oh, we got new guys in masks, and it's like we thrown the NWO and be a tag team, and they already got an abundance of tag teams. It's like how much they gonna want to do with them again. Any Samoan around any relevant storyline or title, they probably gonna lean to the Samoans right now. So unless they come in and consistently book them taking stuff by storm, which they really shouldn't do because you need to elevate teams like the Creeds and then some other and like the Creeds and the Prophets to me. Um, I just think they would literally come in as the flavor of the month, as is used in so many promos, oftentimes with newer talent, and then they kind of just fade off. Like the prime example of that, like look what happened to Shinsuke, and they don't have nothing. They don't have anything for Shinsuke Nakamura or AJ Styles right now.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all really sitting up here, y'all really sitting up here with hard-ons for the Lucha Bros. So,
I don't have any faith in them, truthfully. I don't have faith in them going and being used in WWE correctly. And I don't know why. I don't know why these people are so unable to make these guys look like the beasts they are. I really don't. It's baffling. Uh, Before we get to this one, we're going to talk about the Nigel of it all. Quick little heads up: MLW is doing their super fight this week, this 26th, at 8 p.m. It's on BN Sports and YouTube. It's being advertised as free, free, free. Matt Riddle will take on Tom Lawler, Jesus, in Vale Tudo rules. Vale Tudo used to be just like a style of MMA rules, so I don't know how they're going to bring it into pro wrestling. Alex Kane will take on BRG in an Atlanta street fight. Janae Kai will take on Dalmi Exo in a Taekwondo rules match. Akira will take on Akira Kwan in a Taipei taped fist death match. That's broken glass taped to your knuckles, so that should be interesting. Bobby Fish will take on Kevin Knight. Matthew Justice will take on Jesus Rodriguez in a Barrio Bra. Jesus Rodriguez is the former ring announcer of Alberto El Patron, Alberto Del Rio. And Cobra Kai's Paul Walter Hauser will speak. So I should check it out. It's going to be fun. It's going to be an interesting show. That being said, one of the matches I'm most excited about this year is the rematch between Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness this coming Wednesday, to the point where the wrestling world is kind of abuzz about it. They made a cool little video that I watched that kind of hypes up what's going to happen between these two men. And apparently, WWE was so threatened by it. They're so scared of what this match could be that they actually blocked the video that AEW produced on YouTube. This is going to be an outlandish match, especially if Nigel has anything left to the level that he was at before he retired, 14 years ago. Do you think this match is going to live up to the hype?
I do. I mean, look, Brian is in that elite level where he could have a great match with what would they say, with a mop, a broomstick.
Mm-hmm.
And Nigel, I don't think Nigel would come out of it seemingly retirement after all these years to have a trash match. I mean, didn't Brian have like a really, well, in our opinion, a great match with freaking Jeff Jarrett this year?
Yes, he did.
So I think these two wouldn't be, seemingly these are the last full run of Brian's career. Uh, I think he's only going to want to go out on bangers. So I'm looking forward to it. And credit to AEW's production team. They've been phenomenal with these video packages. I mean, we saw the one for Brian going into the world title match with Swerve, and then obviously I haven't seen it, but I'll take your word for it on the beginning stand. Like, they've actually been consistently top tier with these video packages. So hats off to them, and I'm looking forward to the match. I know some people think it's an error, something trash like in the midst of him having a proper world title run, but people also got to realize to a certain extent, much like Cena, this is kind of his last run full. So he's a lot of these things he's kind of just he's Xing off things he's always wanted to do or get back to in his career, feuds and of that nature. So I think this match means a lot to both of them. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it.
Now, I don't know what we're going to get from this match. It may not actually be a match. Who knows? But it is booked Danielson McGuinness for the Dynamite portion of the two-night affair. Also joining them on this card will be the Young Bucks versus Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay. That should be psychotic, because Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay are fantastic. Maria May versus Yuka Sakazaki. She's always been one of my favorites. She was I don't know what the best way to describe her is. She was the cute little genie girl. Remember her at the start of AEW?
Oh yes, a lot. Yes, ironically enough, a lot of these Japanese girls from the earliest days of AEW have kind of evolved into something really credible. Now, like Hikaru Shida is calling herself the Ace now. She's probably been more entertaining to watch than she's ever been, in terms of a character anyway.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fair. I think that's absolutely fair. Then we have Hook versus Roderick Strong in an FTW match for the FTW Championship. Of course, Danielson McGuinness. And then John Moxley versus Darby Allin for Allin's AEW World Championship opportunity. The winner goes to Wrestle Dream to face Danielson. Then we have Collision, which will feature Jeff Jarrett versus Hangman Adam Page in a Lumberjack strap match. The last time I remember Jeff Jarrett in a Lumberjack match, actually, the last time I remember Jeff Jarrett in a Lumberjack strap match was in 2006. Samoa Joe took the NWA World Championship from him, and Joe beat him, and then right after that, Kurt Angle debuted in TNA. So Jarrett's had rough history in these matches. Jamie Hayter versus Saraya in the Saraya's rules match. The rules of the match are that only Saraya is allowed to use weapons, use closed fists, use hammerlocks, use outside interference, not make use of the traditional 10 count, and use rope breaks. The winner receives an autographed copy of Saraya's autobiography. So there's a good reason to lose this match now, too.
Exactly. That's a good reason to make this a dark match, too.
Right.
Um,
We got Okada and Guevara for the Continental title. For the Continental Championship Eliminator. So if Guevara loses, he can no longer challenge Okada for the title. For as long as Okada is champion, if Guevara wins, he will receive a match at Dynamite's 5-year anniversary show. Fuck Sammy Guevara. The conglomeration of Mark Briscoe, Kyle O'Reilly, and Orange Cassidy will take on the Learning Trees, Chris Jericho, Big Bill, and Brian Keith. Brian Keith, why are you in this stable? The Beast Mortos and Hologram and Drilistico will take on one another in a triple threat match, and the main event will be Jack Perry defending his belt against To Be Announced. It is an open challenge match, and then Pac and Blackpool Combat Club, which is Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta, will take on an unannounced team. It's also an open challenge, so that'll likely be on Dynamite just to keep the two open challenges apart. I'm gonna watch both shows, I think. So.
yeah, same. Yeah, first, I'm definitely looking forward to the Jared match, Ryan match. Like you said, the tag team match mostly for Kyle and Ospreay. Um, let's see, who's for the Continental? Okada and who?
Guevara and Okada, it's an eliminator.
Yes, it's rooting for Okada. Um, yeah, so I definitely I checked out. And how many matches is that?
5 for Wednesday, 6 for Saturday.
Gotcha. Okay, so not too overboard. So that should be fun. 5, get some good time. Any possible prediction? I know you don't care because it's two things you don't care about, both the champion and the championship. But any potential picks for who's answering the open challenge for Goat Face?
For Perry, I think it's probably going to be Wardlow, if I had to take a guess.
Take it right out of my head. I was going to also throw Cage in there, but he can't have nothing nice.
No, he cannot. Cage would be great. I don't know how much they want to push him with his age. I never rule out Glacier. I'd be cool with Glacier. Maybe Mustafa. Sorry. Maybe Mustafa Ali. I could see that happening too.
Would, ironically enough, would that be the spot that you bring back Starks, if that's still a thing?
If he's open to it, yes. Absolutely. Ricky Starks is one. And listen, there are rumors that like that Ricky is hard to work with. I don't know how true that is. Like Miro, hard to work with. Again, I don't know how true that is. You got enough guys sitting at home collecting a paycheck. Either fire them, or let them go, or bring them in. I mean, either fire them or get them on TV. So you got like 12 options off that alone. Could be Kenny.
Yeah, can't. Powerhouse.
Could be Powerhouse. That makes a lot of sense considering the title. I think the trios could be very interesting. I think you might end up getting Chuck Taylor, Ricochet, and somebody else, depending if Ricochet's foot is healed.
Yeah,
Not Ricochet, Chuck Taylor. Because I don't believe the whole Chuck Taylor has to retire because of his foot nonsense. I think that's a good
yeah.
story. I don't think it's reality.
Cassidy could be one if he's not otherwise occupied. That's hilarious. Like one name we didn't mention that could be in there, but apparently of all the people we were talking about bringing in with other promotions, NWA, MLW, apparently somebody that asked for their release, the Bulgarian Brute.
Yeah, Miro.
Yeah,
Could be Miro. Who knows?
yeah,
Gotta tune in
yeah.
to see.
Yeah.
Last bit of news: Jey Uso, new Intercontinental Champion, break my heart into a million pieces. This was clearly the WWE's last resort. Watching this match made me feel like I was suffocation. No breathing. Clearly, the WWE doesn't give a fuck if we cut our arms bleeding. Jey Uso is trash. That's my gimmick. Now listen, you can like Jey Uso. Anyone can like Jey Uso. Jey Uso has proven time and time again that if you put him in a singles match, don't. I honestly, Marcus, outside of his feud with the New Day when it was the Usos and the New Day, can you name like a top tier grade A 5-star feud and match that he's had either with Jimmy or without? Because if you can, tell me. I will go watch it.
I don't think you're gonna top anything match quality wise. It'll be hard for him to match anything that he did with the New Day with his brother with anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if he actually got back with his brother, just they was on another level at that time. Um, Kind of felt like lighting in a bottle. In terms of emotionality, stuff he did with Roman, just because that was some good culminating thing between real life and whatnot. But in terms of match quality, not in tag. Um, I don't think you even. I don't really think because we, of course, we reviewed it. You didn't like the match between him and his brother with against Roman and Solo.
No, no, I
So
did not.
yeah, it's just not good. And then again, because it's not like he got this super evolved moveset. The only thing that he does different now is the spear. So no, it's not. I don't think you got it matched. The only thing he's changed is his positioning consistently in terms of where he's at on the card, and obviously he's going solo, and they've been pushing his main event thing. Um, but like you asked me for the show. I was like, I'm of two minds of it because it was a great moment for as long as he's been there. That's his first singles win ever and all that stuff. And it felt like they needed to obviously culminate something big for him with everything that they did to separate him from the bloodline, get him to Raw, elevate him up that card from being a turncoat to, being somebody that could be trusted to the way he is now. But Braun is the direction that you should go. He's young. He's like a young phenom. You'll be hard pressed to find anybody say any bad words about the kid, specifically if they seen him go.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also, championship has a hot potato-ness to it now because it's what changed 3 times since uh Walter had it. I mean Gunther had it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Braun and now Jay. So, like I said, maybe they do the thing where him and Jay go back and forth like Charlotte and Sasha so many years ago. Um, that wouldn't necessarily be the best thing. Maybe we've been spoiled in a way with those Gunther reigns. Um, but it just I don't know how you cut the legs from under Braun uh in that regard because he is the direction you should go. I culminated with Braun versus Ilya, but maybe that's just me, salivating at them clashing again after the stuff they did in NXT. But I think that's the direction you should go because I feel like Ilya is somebody who naturally, in a believable sense, could beat somebody like Braun with his brutality. But again, that's just maybe me booking from a NXT watcher. Uh, but yeah, like I said, I'm just split with. I 100% get your point because it feels like everything is going back to the bloodline anyway. And Braun's going to be left out in the cold with what's left of the death rebelness of it all. So, you know,
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out how this title reign goes. There's potential. I'm just not gonna hold my breath. One, can't hold it for more than a few minutes. Two, even if I could, I, I've seen Triple H book. It's not good. Um, a lot of this is delusion. It really is delusion that people think that this is like great booking. It's hot. Don't get me wrong. The WWE is hot right now. That doesn't mean it's good. If you actually watched the Attitude Era or rewatched it, you know it wasn't good. It was just popular.
yeah, even Triple H would admit that. It's like a lot of that stuff was trash. I was in most of it. Like,
Well, there was a correlation there. He was in most of it, and it was trash. So, All right, that's all I got for this week. We'll be back next week for more wrestling conversations. Be sure to check out the website, realnerdcorp.com, REALNERDCORP.com. We're on Twitter at NERDCORP. Marcus, any final thoughts before we go to the socials?
well, that's all for me, man.
You can find Marcus on his socials at Paradox Kid, PARADOXKID.
That's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Show, TRUEPENNYSHOW. Be sure to follow them on Twitter as they post new episodes, usually reviewing Gleet. We will be back next Tuesday, which you can find the show either live on twitch.tv/WrestlingUnderground or on youtube.com/WrestlingUnderground. We'll probably recap the Grand Slam and anything else that happened in the next 7 days. So for Mark Stream, I'm Chad Porter. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking it out. Thanks for getting us your chance. Remember, as always, watch more wrestling. And Marcus, take us home.
Good night.